School, and Tex Winter really worked with him to make him the postman that he was.
He was a great scorer in high school. He had a 42-point game, I think, against Council Grove, so he could always score. Gardner took nothing for granted, that this boy was just 15 miles down the road, so they would routinely go over to watch his games just to let him know that he needs to be in Manhattan when he finishes up in Wamego. But when he comes to K-State, he becomes the total player, particularly a savage rebounder. And he gets that through coaching, through effort, through instincts, through practice.
Dick was one of those kind of guys which we don't see today among young players, in that he worked at it. I bet he did what we call a figure eight underneath the basket, and hours upon hours after practice and things like that, because he had a pretty good jump shot. But boy, his shot was shooting that sweeping hook, and was really good at it.
Dick credited Tex Winter, the assistant coach, with perfecting the hook shot, which he used to great extent at K-State.
He was really a good, strong, big kid. That I think his biggest handicap was he couldn't see very well without his glasses.
It was in the early days of contacts, and they were big, not like these little things they have now. And you had to fill those with fluid. It made you cry to watch you put those in. Well, when he put those in, he'd have to look at the light and make sure there wasn't any air bubbles in there. And that, of course, was with each one. And he had to do this right before tip-off. He couldn't do it before we went out to practice. And make sure there wasn't any bubbles. Well, then he had to do that at halftime because they'd cloud over after a certain period of time.
He had maybe as much pressure as anybody in K-State's history as a player, because most of the 51 team graduated. You know, Lou Hitch graduated, Ed Head graduated, Ernie graduated. So they basically were starting over, and the team revolved then around Nossman.
Gene Stauffer in Topeka played with him. And I was with Gene a couple weeks ago, and he said, had they calculated the assists at that time like we do now, Bob Rousey, Jim Iverson, Gene the Jet Wilson, Stauffer, these guys would have had a bushel basket of assists, because, as he said, Nossman had a great understanding of how to get open. He understood angles and where the passes would have to be and where the passes could be. And so they talked about, Gene talked about the fact that he was always open, and he knew how to get open.
People kind of overlook the fact that he can maneuver a little bit better than the guy his size. He had great hands, but he also had good feet. He could move, and just without you ever knowing it.
Many guys have told me that in terms of just having all of the tools and the smoothness in which he played, one of the greats all time at Kansas State. And I think you could put him on that list of underappreciated somewhere too.
He will leave K-State as the first K-Stater to score over 1,000 career points. He leaves K-State as a single game scoring mark. He had 42 against Oklahoma in 1953. He also had the single game rebounding mark for many years.
To think that I had the chance to follow in his footsteps was really a privilege and an honor for me. And I've always thought a lot of him, truly a quality human being.
He's very humble. We tried to set up some kind of an autograph thing if he comes back to K-State, and he said, oh, I don't think people would want that autograph. And I said, Dick, you're one of the legends in this school. I mean, you got to accept that. You are. And it's time that the whole world knows that what a great player you were.